I'm going to talk about the path to changing California. And I know what it is, and it's going to involve all of you. But I'm going to start with this verse because this is one of my favorite verses. And when I write verses down that are important to me in my Bible, on the front and the back pages, they always tend to be the verses that are about fighting something, or that's just the way I think. But this verse in Nehemiah is just so important to me because this is the Bible giving us permission to fight for our kids, right? This is real. I mean, it happened in the Old Testament. It's happening to us today. So do not be afraid of them. It's easy for us to be intimidated by elected officials or school board members or those people in those positions. But we cannot be afraid of them. This is a real fight. And so it says, remember the Lord, great and awesome, and fight for your brethren, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your sons. This is where we are at today, just like back in the day of Nehemiah. We have to fight, and we want to be very practical in the way that we do fight. So why are we here today? There's two reasons. One, we want to protect our children. That is the first, most important thing that we want to do as parents, as grandparents, as community citizens. We have to fight to protect our children. I mean, this is not like 1955 when I was going to public school in the 60s. You know, we had sex ed, and it was all about the biology and all those kinds of things. But what is happening today to our kids is completely different. So when you're talking to people, I'm sure that you're getting people say to you, I don't believe this is happening. I had sex ed when I was a kid. And it's like, it's not the same thing. So we're going to talk about that because I've read all the curriculum. I know what's in the resources. And I wish I could just pour out everything that I have in my head, all the pages and pages and pages of material and resources that they want to pour into your child's life. It's absolutely terrible. And you really, as an individual, have to start investigating on your own because, like Karen said, we cannot do it all for you. So the second reason we're here is because we want to protect our parental rights. We have legislators in Sacramento today who have hijacked our parental rights. They think that they know better than you and me on how to raise our children. And they've made it very obvious. They've given us laws that they are not even afraid to, they have no shame in saying that they want to put these types of curriculums into the classroom. It's astounding to me. I really don't know. I don't understand their thinking. But it's not rational. Our kids should not be exposed to these sexual things. So one of the important things, as I have been out speaking throughout Southern California, is I know that there are a lot of people that just refuse to believe this is happening. So as I was putting my presentations together, I was thinking of how I would go about explaining this situation and giving them the real proof tonight. Part of this conference was giving the proof. You heard Matt Sharp describe the law. You heard Monica Klein talk about what's going on in the classroom. But this is a valuable piece of information for you all. Because when you go out and you tell people about comprehensive sex ed, I want you to watch this 1-minute short video of the legislator who introduced the bill, Assembly Member Shirley Weber, down from the San Diego area. She is the author of AB 329. And she's the one that started this off by introducing this bill right here. And listen to this.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, I'm pleased to present to you AB 329, which is the California Healthy Youth Act. Comprehensive sexual health and HIV prevention education has been shown to be effective in both delaying sexual activity and increasing condom and contraceptive use among youth who are already sexually active. LGBT inclusive education has also been shown to have a positive effect on school climate overall and make LGBT youth feel safer in schools. Research also shows that health education can improve students' academic outcomes, including areas of reading and math.
Who believes that? Raise your hand. Don't raise your hand because then everybody's going to look at you. So. Okay, this is Shirley Weber. She started the ball rolling. Okay? So now you know you have the proof. Those are her words. So I've read the text so many times that there's so many parts of the text of the language in AB 329 that I really don't like. But I really, really have a problem with this one sentence, that this curriculum, this education is supposed to provide students with the knowledge and skills they need to develop a healthy attitude about these bullet points listed here. Growth and development, which is great. That's kind of almost like the biology of how the body works and all those other things. But gender, sexual orientation, relationships, marriage, and family. But that's all their version of what all those things are. It's not our version. And so the whole problem with developing a healthy attitude is, well, for one thing, we know kids, preteens and teens already have an attitude. But now they want to pour into their hearts and minds, and they want to really have these kids develop their view of human sexuality. That's what's happening here. They are working to have their thinking changed, and it's going to be in complete opposite of what you think if you believe in the traditional values that most of us hold here as Christians. And so how do they do that? Well, they produce this curricula that many of us have read. And I know that some of you would like to read. But I really have a problem with this because this is what they're using, and I'm going to give you some examples of some of the curricula excerpts that you need to know about. From one of the curriculums, Rights, Respect, Responsibility, there's a question that is asked. When do you think someone is ready to have sex? Either vaginal, oral, or anal sex with their partner? Who thinks that that question needs to be asked in the classroom? Right? The next one. During puberty, it's common to have feelings for people of your same gender and for people of a different gender. Sometimes that's part of understanding your sexual orientation. Sometimes it's not, and you'll have feelings that come and go. You may not know what your orientation is right away until you're older. That's all about changing their hearts, minds, and attitudes about sexuality and their gender. From Positive Prevention Plus, we have this one. Imagine being a different gender. What would be different in your life? When we talk about gender bending, gender confusion, those types of questions are throughout all of the curriculum. From Teen Talk, we have two. Name two types of sex. The possible answers are oral, anal, and vaginal sex. And that's for middle school students. Also for middle school students, applying lubricant to the outside of a condom also makes vaginal and anal sex more comfortable. And then finally, from Flash, here they're going to define sexual behavior. It's what someone does sexually, such as oral, anal, or vaginal sex. Now, is that changing attitudes, creating a new way of thinking for these kids, your kids who you have raised up and nurtured with your values, with your understanding of the Bible and what God says about sexuality? Well, the school districts are now in control of that. The state is in control of that. So, after Shirley Weber introduced this bill, wrote the language about developing healthy attitudes and all sorts of other things, our legislators had to vote on it. And in your packet, you should have received this infographic. The front side of the infographic has 6 bullet points to describe an overview of what comprehensive sex ed is in California. You can share this at your church, with family, with friends, but people need to know that this is what's happening in our schools today. The backside is very important, though. The backside is showing what happened after Shirley Weber introduced this bill, AB 329, and all the legislators our Senate and our Assembly members throughout California had to vote on the bill. They had to decide if they either opposed it or supported it. And look at that list. You see that 40 members opposed this bill. They didn't want this for your children. They saw the dangers, and maybe some of them were Christians, or maybe they just were wise enough to see that this type of curriculum is not needed in our public schools. So thank you for those 40 members of our assembly. And they all happen to be Republicans. Then let's talk about who supported it. 77 legislators voted in favor of this curriculum, knowing what it was going to do, knowing the changes that it was going to bring to our curriculum and to the classroom, and the impact it was going to have on your kids. 77. 76 were Democrats, and there was one Republican. So think about that. Now, you know, a lot of people don't really want to talk about those types of things. They kind of want to overlook it. And as I have been out talking to people, mostly in churches, about this issue, I always point this out. And sometimes I'm sitting watching the audience and their reaction, and they all get kind of squiggly because they realize that they probably voted for one of these legislators listed here on this page. And don't get me wrong, at one point in my life, I was a very uninformed voter. I really didn't pay attention to who stood for what they were voting on. I almost didn't care. So now I'm trying to redeem myself and make sure everybody knows what they're doing. But at the same time, I don't think we can lay the blame at the feet of the legislators, because there's someone else that is in partnership with them. Can you guess who that may be? So, what happens? Citizens vote. Citizens are the people that vote for these candidates that are running. So, you should be making a well-informed vote, making sure that you're registered to vote, because these legislators are going to Sacramento to represent you with their ideas and their beliefs. So Shirley Weber got elected. She went to Sacramento. She had ideas and beliefs about how your children should be taught in the public schools, and she implemented them. And she drafted legislation, or a bill, AB 329, and she presented it to the legislature. So these bills go through steps, through procedures. Then, like I said, the representatives get to vote on the legislation. So the 77 outnumbered the 40. Wouldn't it have been great if it would have been reversed? Right? Right? So then we have those laws like AB 329 getting approved by the legislature. Then those laws affect you and your kids. So where does this all start? It starts with you and how you vote. Or even if you're registered to vote, are you sitting out every election that we have? I mean, it's really almost the same thing as voting, because you still are affecting the outcome of the vote. But what we need to understand is that we must outnumber people like those 77 that voted for AB 329. So you're going to have your chance. We have a primary this coming March. We used to have our primaries in June. They've moved it up to March. And there's going to be some of these people that are on the infographic. They're going to be running for re-election. Some of them are still in office and they're not terming out. So you need to pay attention to what's going on with this next election, okay? For one thing, you need to register to vote if you're not registered. If you are registered to vote, you really do need to check your voter status, Because there are people, I've had friends, that their voter status has been changed without their knowledge. So you may think that you're registered with one party, but you're really not. So go and check your status. And then when election time comes around, I want you to get voter guides. Voter guides are critical in helping you to understand and make a well-informed decision about who you want to support. And there are some Christian voter guides out there. So you need to make sure you get your hands on those voter guides, and you need to put them in your church. And then finally, when it's time to vote, you need to vote biblical values, right? And we need to stop voting according to our family tradition. I grew up in a family that we were of one certain party. And of course I trusted my father. He knew everything. My father was just a great guy. He read all the time, he watched all the news, and he wanted us to all be this particular party, and we were. But it wasn't until I became an adult and started thinking for myself, started reading my Bible, and realized, I'm really not that party. I really have different views on some of these real important issues. So, you know, there's lots and lots of influences on us. The news, the pamphlets that we get in the mail, what political parties say. But you need to get down to the core of what these people really believe. And you need to change what you've been doing in the past. You need to do more than you've ever done before. Because voting is great. We have to do it. It's our responsibility. But it really isn't enough. We need to be involved. So, all of these things that I've mentioned, registering to vote, checking your voter status, voter guides, it's all going to be on our realimpact.us website. So I hope you all sign up there and you'll be able to get those updates when they come along, because this election is going to be very important for us as parents who want to protect our children and our parental rights. And one of the things we thought that is really important to do is, I'm a big advocate for people lobbying their legislators. Sometimes you hear about a lobbyist in Washington, D.C. or Sacramento, and you think you just have a negative idea of what it is. When you are picking up the phone, if you are writing a letter, if you are walking into your legislator's office and asking him or her to vote in a certain way, that's lobbying. And that is so easy to do, especially if it's just picking up a phone. And you will not believe the impact that that has upon that legislative office. I recently went to visit my congressman's office, Representative Gil Cisneros, and I was lobbying him in person on H.R. 5, which is called the Equality Act, which is out of Washington, D.C., which will change the Civil Rights Act. And I was there talking with the aide, and he said that the legislator was going to support this very liberal bill, the Equality Act. And I asked him, well, do you think the constituents in this district support the Equality Act? And he said, yes, they did. But we have been getting a lot of phone calls from Chino Hills. And he said, I think it's a church. And I said, oh, I think I know which church that might be. But the thing about it is, when I was in Washington, D.C. with Karen England, we went to go watch the debate floor on H.R. 5. First time I'd ever done anything like that. And we're watching the floor from the balcony and watching Nancy Pelosi and Gerald Nadler and all of those well-known guys on the debate floor debating why this bill was so great and it had to be passed. And when it came time for the vote, Gil Cisneros, surprise, surprise, voted how we wanted him to vote. He voted no. Yeah. But there's more to the story. So as we watched the vote and all the votes went up and Gil Cisneros was the only person voting no. We thought, wow, we were high-fiving each other, and it's like, wow, we really did it. So maybe we got a little bit too pumped up, and we left, and we checked the voting record later that night, and he flipped his vote. The point is, the reason why I tell you, even though we were defeated, is because he was feeling the pressure from his constituents. That's lobbying. How easy was that for a person to pick up their phone, take 1 minute to call Gil Cisneros' office and say, vote no on H.R. 5. So easy to do. We want to provide that information to you. So if you sign up with us at realimpact.us, we are going to put out the action alerts. And hopefully, you will really take this seriously. This is not a game. The reason these legislators are voting the way they do, like with 329, is because they know people aren't paying attention. You do not know what they're voting on, do you? You do not know unless you're actually following some of these things, and very few people do that. So we want to help you to learn how to do that. So, as we were thinking about being more effective in lobbying our legislators, I came up with this idea. What if we put out a parental rights petition and we launch it online, and people from all over California can go online and sign this petition? It's fantastic language, you guys. I hope you go and read it. And more than that, I hope you go and sign it. Because what's going to happen with this petition is it's going to be, when a person signs the petition, it's going to be separated according to your Senate, your Assembly, and your school district. And you are going to be telling that senator in whatever district it is that you want your parental rights protected. But we need hundreds and tens and thousands of people to sign this petition because they're going to be notified how many people are signing. So when they go back to Sacramento and they start voting on bills, they're going to take notice if we get a substantial amount of people signing the petition. So let's say we get 5,000 or 10,000 people signing in the Senate district. They're going to know that these people who signed are watching what they're doing. Hopefully our numbers grow. We're going to keep it up there. And even on election day, after all the candidates have run and they go up to Sacramento, they're going to remember and they're going to keep getting notices about the growing number of people who are fighting for parental rights in California. And we can do this. I cannot do it alone. One signature is not going to work. I need you to help. This is one simple way that we can all work together. So please take advantage of it. You can go right now on your phone to citizengo.org and you can sign the petition. You can sign it out on the table, on the foyer table. And we need you to share and recruit other people to help us, because this is easy to do. So what do we need to do now? We need to connect with us so we can keep you informed. We will not bombard you with all kinds of needless, useless information. The information that you're going to get from us is valuable. I'm going to make sure that we're not going to waste your time. And then we want you to check, to register to vote and to check your status. You can also do that on our realimpact.us website. It's real easy to find. I encourage everyone to do that. You need to sign our petition, and then you need to share what you've learned today. We had a lot of great speakers here who are giving you information that a lot of people really don't have. So now that you are equipped, you need to go out and share all of this. But I want to say to you, don't give up. Don't give up on California. Don't give up on our children. We need to defend our children, and we need to do it in ways that we've never had to do in the past. We need to be voting, and we need to be lobbying our legislators. That's what's different today. And one of the reasons we do not want to give up is because they're not going away. Right? They're not going away. They're very ambitious people, and they have a plan. but so do we. And the thing about it, you recognize that face right there? That's Shirley Weber. She's the one that introduced AB 329. She's in office until 2024. Do you think that this is the only bill that she's going to write like this? Can you imagine what she's going to write next year and the year after and the year after? And she's counting on you to not pay attention. She's counting on you to be apathetic. She's counting on you to believe that your vote or your action doesn't mean anything. But that's very far from the truth. She is aggressive. She's a leader in Sacramento. She has better ideas about how your children should be raised. And once they find out what we're doing with, for instance, this opt-out form, and what the law says about the right that we have to use this opt-out form, I guarantee you they are going to go back into the legislature, introduce a bill, and that is going to wipe away that code that gives us that right to use that health code. So if we do not work together, we are going to continue to go down this path of losing our rights and our children. The key is to vote, and the key is to speak up. I hope you'll join us.